thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me. Basically, what I want to do is talk about where Kevin was talking about finance, and there's all this uncertainty, all this, will this happen, will that happen, will I have the finance to be able to get through the first 2 months, 3 months? It's a very uncertain time. And so basically, a startup dental practice is just a startup. And a startup is an enterprise designed to thrive in an unstable environment. So let's have a little look. What I want to do is talk about what I did and what I would do if I was doing it now. Okay, so I live North Greenwich, just there by the O2. I set up a practice in Putney in southwest London. The reason I set that up there was because I was looking for the right kind of location. I'd been working as an associate, so I qualified 2003, worked for about 3-4 years, and I wanted my own practice. If you hang out with Aaron long enough, you want your own practice too, you understand? So that's quite a good thing. And looking for the right locations, you've got to think about customers. You've got to think about, well, if I borrow all this money, can I pay it back? I've spent all my money on courses and education. That's pretty expensive as a dentist. So then where are you going to have your budget to be able to get through things? So what we want to look at today is, if you're going to start in an unstable environment, how would you do things? Okay, so I like starting things. So I do quite a few different things. So for example, Alkali Dental Studios was the practice I started. Now involved with a few different other projects, and we're starting something else at the moment as well. Each thing is set up for a specific reason. The most important thing is setting up your own business is to be able to get the lifestyle you want. You're setting it for a purpose. Of course, we all need income, but it's also nice to be able to get the time and do things that you want with people that you enjoy doing. So what I do, qualified in 2003. I grew up in Lancashire, went to university in London, did some VT, worked around different places. Then I quit my job in about 2007, and I was looking for practices. I was looking for a building. I wanted to set up a practice from scratch. And I was working up north, traveling down to London on weekends, looking at lots of buildings, looking at different opportunities. It was very difficult at that time because I didn't have the time to look around as much as I'd like to. But at the same time, every time I saw a good building, they're like, do you have a practice already? I'm like, no, I don't have a practice already. And nobody wants to listen to you. Luckily, I managed to find some backers with like NatWest Bank that I could find that we could actually go with, and kept looking. So I found a building. It was in Putney in southwest London. There was a large building. There's a Pilates studio and there's a massage studio. The massage studio went bust. And so basically there was an opportunity because there was a D1 premises already. And I thought, okay, I can set up a practice here. Putney demographics, okay, I'm nearby train station, tube station, so people are affluent. Recession is coming. But if you've got the right kind of location and the right people, surely you can make that happen. But the bit from being in the right location to get the right customers paying you the money, that's the tricky bit. And you're trying to figure out how can you do that on a tight time frame. My initial concept, I laugh now and look back at it, it was called Alkali Aesthetics and Wellbeing. At that time, facial aesthetics was really popular. I was doing quite a lot of Botox where I was working as an associate. And I thought, okay, well, the most important thing is customer lifetime value. If they're already coming to me for dental treatment, doing some Botox, possibly I always thought peels and things like that could improve the experience further and add an additional revenue stream. So we opened offering facial aesthetic treatments, skin treatments. We had some nutrition and minimally invasive dentistry. I had about 7 different packages, and I'll come back to this in a second, which we did market and try different things. My goal was to do treatments I enjoy and build a business seeing people that I valued, that were coming to see me for seeing, because this is the place they wanted to come. Not just, I just need a dentist and that kind of thing, basically. So that was the thing. So found the building in February 2009, fitted it out. So I opened actually at the end of September 2009 because we opened with 0 patients, an area I had 0 contacts in. I had over around the fit out. I mean, you can't forecast these things. I used a design company and a dental company, and they argued when it mixed to the middle, and they messed up the electrics basically. And it was like August, and I didn't have enough money because I'd forecasted 2 months of fit out, and I'd spent all that on rent. I had no rent-free period because there's lots of different things like this. So you're going in fast, and you're thinking, I've got to figure this out very quickly. Anyway, we opened in September 2009. I'd lost my 2-month cash flow buffer, and I thought, okay, so how can we attract people? I know what to do. I know how to do rehabs and how to do different stuff, but how can you attract people to a new place? You've got no reputation, and there's like loads of dentists around. There's like maybe 7 or 8 dental practices, all nice private practices within a 5-minute walk, okay? So there's no shortage, okay? But you just think, okay, who can I add value to? So anyway, we opened, tried different offers, strategies to attract patients. It worked poorly, managed to go month to month, offering, because I'd offered comprehensive treatment plan to every single person that came in. Of course, some people are not interested in comprehensive treatment, but because of that, 1 or 2 patients managed to pay my bills for the month, and we managed to get through that way. Anyway, when I opened, I had 4 different packages. One was like a refresh package, different things like this. But one package we called Straight Smiler, which was an Inman liner, whitening and bonding. That was the most popular by far. And that actually got me through my whole summer, basically. So we did maybe like 20 or 30 cases or something like that. So quite a lot of different things. So what I'm just trying to do is, we did lots of things, but if you go in with a specific approach, you don't have to have that uncertainty. So there's a practice in Southwest London. Because I wanted to do aesthetic treatments, I thought it was quite important that the whole environment is aesthetic. I mean, you've got to be congruent. And we have like spa beds, so when people come in, they always feel like, ooh, it's no dental chair. I'm scared of a chair. It's a nice bed. I can have a nap on it. And it's just nicer, and it makes treatment acceptance a lot easier. I'll go through that in more detail because it's very, very important, your customer experience.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt. Can you just point out the location? Because I think the visibility of this wasn't, in terms of on the street, it wasn't the best visibility.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I'd just got massively frustrated. I just wanted my own practice. I'd spent a year and a half to 2 years looking for a place. And as I say, so there's a shop frontage, there's a Pilates studio within there, and so I'd have access to half the window. It's off a side street, but it's still a busy street. There's a lot of people coming by, and you have got signage visibility. But I had some issues with the building at the beginning, and so I didn't have the high visibility that I would have liked to. Plus, at the same time, you're going into a place where you've got a dominant already tenant, if you like. So people, oh, that's the Pilates place, if you understand. So you're trying to establish something in an area there. So I had lots of challenges. As I say, interior, I've got 3 treatment rooms, consultation room, we've got a mini laboratory, staff room, everything like this, but you're essentially unknown in a new area, and that's the challenge. You've built it, will they come? No, they won't. You need to make them come. So there's a different way to do that. So what am I doing now? I enjoy creating marketing systems. So the whole thing is, if you're a dentist, you like doing dentistry, and you want to do the procedures that you enjoy. The reason you're here is because you want to learn how to create the practice so you can do the things that you enjoy so that you can do them to the best of your ability. Having your own practice, you can control your materials, your time, everything like this. So that's the way you like to do things. I enjoy dentistry, don't get me wrong. I was doing some this morning. But at the same time, what I really enjoy is setting something new up and making something happen. So if you've got like an idea or a product or a service that you think will make a really good impact on someone, like we do a lot of teeth straightening at the moment, and then it's really exciting to be able to attract people. And I always find it's quite a challenge. We get people from, see, Aaron does high traffic areas. He buys a good building in a good area. I get people from East London, even Watford and outskirts because of different marketing things we're doing. I market very tightly, but things get out, if you understand. So anyway, at the moment, mainly I Love Straight Teeth is what I'm focusing on at the moment. And we've got like obviously quite an active Facebook page. And also, you got to take everything you hear with a pinch of salt. When you look at people saying, oh, Facebook's really good, yeah, but the people that may come from it, unless you do specific things, you'll get the wrong kind of people and they won't say yes to treatment. So there's so much mistakes, which I'm going to try and go through so you don't get them, okay? So this is at the moment.
Did you have a very strong website from day one?
No.
No, you didn't.
You didn't?
Nope. I had...
You opened up somewhere?
Yeah.
Didn't have a website?
That's right.
That's very brave.
Well, it's not brave. It's a question of, because there were so many things that were happening at the time. So, for example, the website, the initial website, I designed everything, got everything as I wanted it to be. But because of life, for the launch time that was happening, one person was criticizing another person. This is another thing, right? Wherever you can, integrate for results. Use people that will actually deliver the actual result you're looking for. Not like, oh, I'll get my lights from this person and my fitting from this person. No, you want a room that's functional. And you'll always find things will work. Same with the website stuff, right? I had one person doing design stuff, another person trying to do coding stuff, and then they were arguing amongst each other. Bottom line is I had a team of promo girls, like maybe 10, branded T-shirts, everything ready to go with like 30,000 flyers with different offers and everything like this. And we had a squeeze page. I mean, it was a really primitive squeeze page, and it wasn't what I wanted, but you have to start, isn't it? Because if you've got no money, you've got to just get on with it, basically.
You've got to take the action, absolutely.
And you learn a lot from these things, as I say. So what I want to do is try and save some of you some pain and just try and figure out that actually, if you intentionally know what you're trying to do at the beginning, it's quite straightforward, actually, to get something predictable. And you can actually do it in a way before you've got your building, I think. So we'll come through that, okay? If you know what you want. Okay. So the purpose of a business is to attract and retain a customer. Obviously, when you're looking at finance, to borrow the money to set up your clinic, you're thinking, okay, it's going to cost me this much a month, this much. Ooh, this percentage is quite expensive, or this is quite expensive. But okay, are you setting up a fruit and vegetable shop or a diamond shop? What are you selling? You know, if you're going to sell a diamond, have a diamond shop, you've got to be in the place where people are spending on diamonds. And you got to look at your business as that. And the whole point of it is, what do you want to sell? And then the question is, well, what could you sell? And what would you want to sell? So, for example, what's the highest and best use of your time. You're going to take all this stress, all this time, all this money, and you're going to invest it in your own business. You at least want to see the kind of customers you want to see, and that's really important to me. So, because at the end of the day, we only live once. Okay, so for true sustainability, you need 3 impact areas: your human capital, your marketing, and lean and productive operations. It's very competitive these days. I mean, I was doing some research on how many patients go abroad for treatment. So many, and it's like, I think it was like 70,000 UK adults last year. An average transaction size was like £5,000. And there's like people from France, for example, that get quoted £30,000 for full mouth of implants. They go to Hungary, very good standards in Hungary, and they pay 15,000 very happily. You know, and there's still a huge profit margin in that because lab bills aren't that high. So you've got to offer something that they want. You know, dental tourism affects everybody, and that's just one market force. You've also got like human capital. Like if you've got somebody who's just present and not answering the phone properly, that can screw up your whole business. And you think, okay, I've got somebody cheap and they're sat on the phone, but they're not actually helping you sell. And that can destroy everything else you're spending your money on. So this is what I'm saying. You've got to think about everything together. Lean and productive operations, you've got to make sure you're very productive. So if you're doing something, do it. Don't waste time. It's not fair to the patient to have to pay for your lack of efficiency. If you're not organised enough to do something in 2 hours, which could be done in 2 hours, and you charge them for, say, 5 hours because I'm not sure, or whatever like this, you're not going to have a sustainable advantage. So you've got to think about all these things. But I'm just going to talk about marketing today. Okay. In 2013, business is competitive. In 2014 and 15, it'll be even more so. It took me like 2 years of really looking to find a place. And at that time, things had changed dramatically from when I started. I remember when I was looking and I was thinking about the kind of facial aesthetic side of things, it was really, really popular at that time. And then by the time it came to time to open, things had changed quite a bit, but obviously I hadn't changed in my head. I was still single-minded and focused on the same sort of thing. So I thought, okay, people would like to, if they're paying £300 for Botox, well, they'll pay £300 for Botox if I also include some teeth whitening and a peel. And then within 2 weeks, they'll look even better than they did in the first 2 weeks. And then the fact that I've charged the same amount of money for a better overall result, that'll work. No, it doesn't work. They just want one thing. So if someone who wants what they want, and you can't tell them what they should want. So you've got to look at a pull-driven business versus a push-driven business. Push-driven business is like, okay, I'm a dentist, I'm in this area now, I offer this. Do you want this? You need to look at what do people want, what problem do they have, and have an efficient way to be able to solve that, sort that, and then translate that into profit, basically, so everybody benefits. So you've got to have an unfair advantage. You've got to have a competitive edge in some niche, some area, something which other people don't have. For example, with orthodontics, what we do, we've done some things, so I've managed to save money, but at the same time, we then reinvest that money into marketing. So for example, with lab bills, by doing direct bonding yourself, you eliminate an expense which would have otherwise had to be passed on to the customer. You eliminate that, then you can just drop your price accordingly, but your profit margin stays the same. Actually, speed increases as well, which is an additional benefit, which means referrals come quicker. So you've got to have some angle. You've got to have some angle. Okay, so what are the problems you solve for people? Just really get fundamental. You want to set up a practice, medical practice, dental practice. Yeah, you offer lots of different things, but you've got to kind of have a niche focus. I think if you're in an area which has got high, there's a lot of dentists to the population, you really, really need to go in with this. If you're in an area where obviously there's not much servicing of the demand, you're going to be more fortunate. But from a business perspective, it's also good to kind of have a business within your business, which gives you a bit more sustainability. And what you want to look at is the benefits that you offer, the concerns that the person may have before they hand you money, and what you're potentially offering them. What's really, really important is people don't actually even want to deal with you. If they've got a broken tooth, they don't want to see a dentist. They just want the tooth fixed. And they want it as fixed as quickly as possible with as little hassle as possible. If they want a new smile, they don't really want to see you for 6 months or 10 years or whatever it is. They just want the results. So the quickest way you can kind of think, okay, if we're a result delivering machine, how quickly can we deliver the result to who? And then you want to think about all the different elements around that. Okay, so there's something called lifecycle marketing. It's quite important. You should look at it because there's a whole thing. If you attract the customer, you then want to be able to service the customer in the entire way you can. So you want to attract them. They want to kind of hear about you and opt in to hear more about you, so like an email or something like this. You want to have some sort of low barrier to entry, some way that they can just test and see, are you what you say you are? Are you congruent? Does this match? It's like a free trial or taster. You ideally also want to design premium versions of your product. Like this is something people don't do. They don't have service differentiation. They only have one level of X. So for example, we've got a hygiene menu, and all the time people will pick a middle or the upper one. And if we just offered hygiene, people can't self-select. And then I know somebody who's self-selected on the higher one is more interested in possibly whitening or something else. And so you can just ask them in a simple way. Anyway, you want them to then purchase an additional item or service. You want them to come back. You don't want to just attract them and then replace them. It's really, really expensive to do that. And then you want them to be ideally on a continuity program. Business fundamentals, right? I think stress is having to pay 20 grand every month in overheads, and you're thinking, where am I going to get this month from? That's stress. But less stress would be, for example, if everyone's paying you a certain amount every month, and you can build that sustainably over a period of time. Okay, 5,000 is covered now, so 15,000 to go. You want to kind of engineer your business so that you don't have to keep working and running and sweating, because at some point people burn out. And what you want to do is build something which is sustainable and sustains you. It's your business at the end of the day. Obviously, you want people to be thrilled with your service or product. That goes without saying. You want to help people. It should be better for them to deal with you, and then actively refer friends and family to you. So that's like your whole life cycle. And then you want to think about where you are now, quantify that, where you'd want to be. Look at the foundational principles of direct response marketing. Don't go into branding and all that kind of stuff. You want to, you can in a degree, but it's like you've got to
differ here.
Yeah, we differ in a degree, but at the same time I agree with you a lot. But I'm just talking about when I went into a new area, I can't establish a brand. I've got to be able to get people to come in. Yes, there was a brand internally in the way that we have a signature experience, the way we do things, but that didn't bring them in the door in the first place. The result they wanted brought them in the door in the first place. Think about which businesses you're in, different things like this. I'm just going to
Can I just actually add on that? So
yeah.
You're right. I think branding is important, and there's that continuity of brand, and people want to see, especially when you're establishing a business and you've got a longer term business, they'll think, oh, for instance, we have our clinic in Wandsworth, we have a clinic in Esher, and what we find is a lot of people move from the Wandsworth area out to this part of the world once their kids get a little bit bigger. So then they see a neem tree down here. Oh, neem tree's here as well. It's that confidence boost. Think, okay, I can go to that clinic now, and they'll get my notes from that clinic to this clinic. So that's where brand comes in. But then when Aalok's talking about direct response marketing, maybe what you should say is it's kind of, you're putting something out there. It might not have the brand associated with it, okay? But we're trying to see, we put a landing page out there and say, right, we want to see how many people actually come to the landing page, how many click through, how many actually give us a call, and how many book. So then you can analyze, okay, the results of putting this marketing out on the marketplace. So an example might be, as you said, you put a flyer out there, you put details on the flyer, visit www.x, certain page, and then you can see how impactful that flyer drop has been, okay? Because that's a unique page, and then you can see we got 2 people out of those 1,000 flyers we went out there. But that's very, very valuable. Or you might see 10, and suddenly that's actually not a bad return for 1,000 flyer drops that have gone. So that's the measuring, and that's being analytical about this whole process of marketing. Absolutely essential. Absolutely essential.
I completely agree with the branding second part of it, but I meant it in there. My point was when you're starting out, you don't necessarily have something. So, for example, with the I Love Straight Teeth, we get I've got more inquiries than I can deal with because people don't want to travel that far to come and see us. We're based in Putney, South West London. I get people asking from Liverpool, from Manchester, from Birmingham, and I've been thinking in my head, well, what can I do with this? Can I franchise it? But I don't think someone's going to necessarily trust in different things. I don't want to get off tangent, but for me, the signature experience, because we've got a whole process designed, which I'm going to show you how you can do it yourself. That's important to me because I know that somebody's going to get this same experience. And my associate, he's able to deliver the same experience. He asked me this morning, some patient had written something on a form saying that she wanted to change her bite. He goes, shall I change things? I said, no. Go through the protocol, go through the steps, the whole thing, the way we do it, with the display and everything like this, and then they can choose what they want. You're not trying to force anything on anybody. You're just presenting what's there. So you need a system, basically.
So the way you're working, so if you, instead of setting up a branch somewhere else, if you have opening times on Saturdays, and when they buy into the package, if you add like 20% and you just book them into the local travel lodge, so they come in and see you on Saturdays only, or one of their associates. In that case, you don't actually need another practice. You can get them in from another city.
Good idea. It's a good idea, and it's worth testing. The answer I'll give to anything is like, I don't know if it'll work, you understand. But from my experience of what I've found is, since we made some changes, people book in at all times, and they want to come when they want to come. And if you don't offer what they want, it's not like there's any shortage of other options anywhere else. So, you know, I totally get what you're saying, but I am looking at a lateral angle at the moment, which we're working on in the background anyway, but it's a problem I want to solve. Anyway, if we think about what you're trying to achieve with your patient, your customer, okay, define what it is. So, yeah, you want to treat a patient and they're happy. Well, actually, you want someone that's happy, healthy patient, who's paid in full, has completed treatment, who refers clients regularly to the clinic and attends recare. Add in the recare, I forgot that. Basically, that's quite specific because each of these gives you something actionable you can do. Happy, you've got to think about, well, how they're going to hear about me, when they heard about me, when they ask, is there parking near the place? You want to make sure they've got clear instructions and the whole journey before they come see you, during the time, after as well. You think about the whole process, okay? And you'll need to write things once. If you write everything clearly once or record a clear directions video once or do something like this once, then you've got that, okay? So happy, healthy, so then you are offering all the options to them to be able to achieve their health. One of the things I think in dentistry is things are very expensive, and one of the best things you can do as a dentist is to help people afford what you offer. And you can do that by cutting costs or by offering finance or different things like this. Paid in full, of course, financial options are very, very important because you can't be chasing after somebody. If you're a debt collector, you're not very popular. But at the same time, when they want to do the treatment, that's when they're emotionally engaged in what you're offering. You want to make sure they complete treatment. So, for example, if they've completed part of their treatment, you've got a way of keeping in touch with them. Like there's some letters we've done which have some string within there, and I'm going into more detail afterwards. But there's ways that you can activate huge amounts of unscheduled treatment, and you need a system for that who refers clients regularly. So they've got to have a reason to think about you. They've got an easy way to pass your details on, all this sorts of stuff. So if you've got something like this thought about for each customer that comes in, then you can invest in your marketing. So you're thinking about what do you currently sell, and then something I think for a startup practice, what's your highest profit and most transformative service? I always wanted to see people that wanted to come and see me. So I always liked positive things, happiness, like they're happy to deal with you, you understand? So I like kind of transformative services, something where you have a big impact on that person's well-being or life. I mean, it's a small thing with teeth or whatever, but it's still a big difference to them. And the largest check. So in 30 days, when they come and see you, what's the most they could spend with you? Because obviously you've got to cover your costs, you've got to pay for everything, you want to try and quit your associate job, you want to there's so many things happening and money makes it happen. So I'm just saying be very intentional and very strategic in what you're offering. The same money, like what's the difference between a £5 note and a £50 note? It's basically the same paper, it's the message on it, isn't it? So for example, if I did a hygiene flyer and I said, okay, I'm going to print out 50,000 hygiene flyers and send them all out, £30 hygiene, we're the cheapest dentist in town, versus I do like, okay, all on 4 flyer, £8,000 for all on 4, blah, 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 you know, like the best deal, you're going to get a huge difference from those two different services. Now, obviously, you may want to deliver one and not deliver the other, but you just got to think about it from a business perspective. In the early days, you've got not much time and you've got lots of money going out. So you want to look at customer groups, understand their wants and need, and ideally create a transformational product or service with a high 30-day customer value. My straight smiler package really saved me in the first summer because it was whitening, bonding, which there's not much lab fee in that, and Inman liner, which isn't that expensive. We charged about 1,500 quid, and we did like 30 or 40 or something like this, and simple things, you know, can get you through things because it's important to make sure you've got the right things. So you need to do 2 things. You need to create desire. So, for example, you need them to want to engage with you. There's no shortage of options anywhere. So there's no desire if they don't feel any gap or void. So they don't feel any need to do anything. But total desire was they can perceive that life will be so much better with your result. And you think about how their life's limited now, how it'll be better with your result, all the things they're missing out on, how they will have more of what they want, less of what they don't want, all the exciting possibilities opened up to them, seductive imagery and language. All of this should be within your marketing material so they feel that it's aspirational, that they're going to want to deal with you because you'll be able to deliver that service. And the second thing is trust, because there's so many charlatans in the world, people taking money for things and not actually delivering things. It's very, very important to be who you say you are. The web is just a very fast way of people really showing who they are, and you can't hide about anything. So the best thing to do is actually to not hide, to show everything, because you've got nothing to fear then, because you've got everything there. So no trust is because they know nothing about you. So when I went to Putney, they knew nothing about me, and then I've got people now that are like, well, whatever you say needs to be done. I'm like, yeah, but look in the camera, this is why I'm saying this. I don't take that for granted, because you've got to understand that anything can kind of make that disappear. So for example, with trust, the way we present treatment is, for example, if I'm doing charting, I've got a camera and they've got a screen above them, and I call through everything with them together, so they're actually looking at it together. If I see something, I pause it, talk to them about it. So it's very straightforward and it's non-confrontational. I'm not trying to say you've got this, you've got that, and they might not care. You know, you've got to just be straightforward, okay? And so desire and trust are very, very important. Okay, so I'm just going to take you through like a process. There's a very clear process.
Sorry, we're going to get copies of these slides. So I know they're not on your pack, so you will get a copy of these. So just watch Aalok, okay?
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
There's a very clear process you can look at, and it's all about what you want to achieve. So you've got to think about your positioning. Like you take your stall out, like for example, Neem Tree, it's like Waitrose, it's high end. You know what you're going to go. If you walk into a Mercedes dealership, you know that it's not going to be £5 for a car. And at the same time, it means that you're going to attract the right people. People self-select themselves. Then you're looking at like your promotion publicity, multi-channel marketing, phone handling, loyal customer creation, a thorough clinical assessment, or basically a sales and recovery process, making it easy for patients to accept your treatment, your clinical delivery system, your quality control feedback, and then also your internal customer communication afterwards. What's also important is your fixed overheads and the business model you actually choose, and that's set out at the beginning, and that's why important planning is very important. Okay, so you've got to think about 3 numbers all the time. Increasing number of customers, increasing the size of average purchase, increased frequency of purchase. I just want to put a rider. I'm not talking about trying to convince people to have things that they don't want. I'm not talking about this at all. I'm just talking about from a business perspective, you've got to look at the different elements which can help you do things better, basically. Now, we talked about productivity briefly, your time per procedure. I remember you gave me a spreadsheet which showed like how long do you take to do something, so you set your hourly rate or your pricing based on that. And then that's important, but that also then can have inherent inaccuracies if you can actually improve your productivity, and then you could then potentially increase your hourly rate without having to increase your fees. And everything's very fee sensitive these days. You also look at your treatment room cycle time, like how long does it take to turn over a room, staff standardization, making sure that all the rooms are fitted out the same, so the same nurse could work in different rooms with different dentists. So you eliminate any barriers to actually just getting on and delivering the service for somebody. Controlling your fixed costs, controlling your variable costs, looking at your return investment on marketing, return investment on human capital, training. It's actually cheaper to spend more on staff sometimes, because if they sell more for you, you just got to think about what do they get out of it. If they feel that they've got a better life as a result of working for you, and they can go on holiday and they can enjoy things more, it's a much nicer environment to be in. My main practice manager in reception, she's gone to Dubai for like a week and a half, and she's earning a lot more than she thought she ever would earn before. Now, then we've got a game where she can earn even more. But, it's just nice to be around that kind of environment.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. I know.
Yeah.
Those 3 key numbers, I think there's a chap called Jay Abraham who's a big American marketing kind of expert, okay? And he's very, very knowledgeable, very experienced in this. And any business, okay, so those 3 things that Alok's highlighted are so important. If you just focus your effort on increasing the number of customers, it all has a compounding effect, increasing the size of the average purchase. So if it's instead of £50, it might be £55. It has that compounding effect. And then hygiene, great example is that the hygiene, instead of once a year, they come 4 times a year. Suddenly, the impact on your business is huge. Okay, so looking at it from a dental clinic, instead of 1 checkup a year, 2 checkups a year, straight away, and if you've got the systems that Alok's talking about, that's suddenly increasing your revenue significantly. If you're a GP practice owner, suddenly you might think, hold on a minute, instead of doing 1 annual health assessment, I'm going to do 2 annual health assessments. And it's about adding value in each of those assessments, but it's getting people through the door. That builds a contact with the business up further, which ultimately builds more loyalty, which ultimately gets them to refer to more customers. So it all compounds very, very much. Sorry.
It can only work if the patient needs full hygiene, right?
Yeah, that's the rider he said. That's the rider he said.
Absolutely, and you don't offer anything they don't require. But for example, strategic sort of breaking up of your service can actually make things more affordable for some people, and other people can get the service they want. For example, if you offer 1 hygiene at £65, if somebody can't afford £65, or they felt, I paid £40 for a hygiene, they may not want the full 30-minute, 40-minute, whatever time you spend on it. Versus if you said, okay, our basic hygiene starts at £40. We're going to do ultrasonic scaling, and we'll check the teeth and do a BPE, basically, okay? You can have one at £65, you can include bicarbonate soda and prophylaxis water spray, basically to break down more staining. You could have one at £95, which includes more polishing and more stain removal, for different self-select things, okay? So then the person who wants a £40 hygiene gets it, and they're happy, and you've got money from somebody who otherwise wouldn't have paid you anything because they wouldn't have paid £65. The person who's thinking, well, I've got a lot of staining and I'm also bothered about this, and I really care about the staining on this very back distal surface of this tooth. Well, obviously that person's different, and it's going to take a lot more time to try and get that off, and you've got to have a service for them. And the way around all of this is to not even have to talk about that. if you've got a menu with pictorial examples, that we got one which has got a pearl on it, and people just say, okay, I want the pearl one, or somebody else who says, I want the washing machine looking one. I don't want to talk to people and convince somebody about something. I want someone to tell me what they want, and then I'm just delivering.
And you'll just gently persuade them.
No. They can do it. But that's the thing, though. The nice thing about when they come to my practice is they don't really know who I am. Like, I'm a nice guy in the place, but if they want to see my associate dentist, they could do too. And it wouldn't feel like anything out of the ordinary. And we know what a jet wash is, we know what a high gloss polish is, we know what a fresh and white is, and we will deliver it in the same way. So yeah, it's different things.
When do they make that decision? After they do?
No, before. So they can ask about what they want. And we've also got people that can book and pay online. So for example, I had one lady last week who booked and paid online for a high gloss polish with my associate dentist. And I would have, if she'd phoned me up, I would have just booked her in for a jet wash. But then now she was asking more about Invisalign with him and stuff. So, let people have what they want, Okay, positioning. So this is what we're kind of getting to. The goal is to increase your average transaction value, and you want to look at your solution design and customer avatar. So solution design is like, do you offer like a hygiene clean, or do you offer a jet wash hygiene, or do you offer whatever name you want to come out with, basically? But as long as it does something, I'm not talking about making names up for just the sake of making names up. And you also want to think about the customer avatar. So somebody who's like an 18-year-old who basically has just now moved out on themselves, and they want to see a dentist because their mum never took them to the dentist, but they've only got £50 or something like that. They need to be, seen, and your practice may not be the practice for them. But we like to be a bit more inclusive and let people have what they want and be treated nicely, and that's quite good. Versus somebody else who's in her mid-50s, late 50s, really heavy driven, works in PR for like L'Oreal or something like this, and she grinds the hell out of her teeth, and she's like, oh, I want them sorted. I'm here for like 2 weeks. What can you do? That's somebody different, isn't it? And you've got to have, we don't have to, but if you have a solution which they could go for, then it makes it easier to have that. And you can actually think about beforehand, what do I want to sell? I like doing composite. I basically don't like doing things which have blood, and I like clean things, so like whitening, bonding. I do lots of bonding, braces. So I've created an environment where I do what I like doing, basically, so I'm happy. So anyway, so all these sorts of things, and you create unique transformative solutions. So for example, on our I Love Straight Teeth Facebook page, this morning I posted enamel reconstruction we did yesterday. Again, I said enamel reconstruction, white fillings on front teeth, okay? But it's just the way you do it, the way you position it, the way you show it. And you say, I'm adding some artificial enamel to the edges of the teeth. People accept it rather than 4 fillings on your front teeth. It's the different things. Okay, promotion and publicity. So the goal is to increase your number of customers. You want to think about dominating a market. You think about Procter & Gamble. How many billion-dollar brands have they got? Each one they have has a very specific focus to go after a specific niche need. And the same way, you could create something like that. So I created I Love Straight Teeth to focus on people who want straight teeth in 6 months, affordably, basically. They were told different options. And we go very tightly after a specific age group in that way. But at the same time, you need to think about the practice in your area. Is there a subcategory or sub-focus or a special interest you'd like to do? If you don't have one, then that's fine. But then you can still think about it in terms of being a really good community practice. There's still a way of doing it. And then you think about how people hear about you, how they learn about solutions to their problems, what the media says about you, and how many referrals you get. So you think about, how am I going to carry the message out there? Then you think about, one-step selling doesn't sell. If you just send something out and say, please buy this, they're not going to buy it, right? They don't know who you are, they don't trust you, don't know anything about you, and they're too busy at the moment. So you've got to have a way of keeping in touch with them systematically without you keeping in touch with them, because you're too busy trying to do other stuff, basically. So you've got to think about, how can I interact with as many people through as many different channels without having to do it personally myself? So you're looking at like an automated and scaled system, and you want people to know, like, and trust you automatically because you've got all of that happening in all the different areas. Okay, phone handling and tracking per source. This has killed me. This really has killed me because...
Can you go back to the last slide? So how do you do that one? Getting that many people?
Through different channels. So you have YouTube going, you have Facebook going, you've got... I don't use Twitter, but you can have like your blogging articles going, frequently asked questions, forums, so many different things like that. But then you've also got to have a way of following up with them.
So who does someone?
No.
You hired someone to
No.
do it? Also you do it all yourself?
No.
So
That's the whole point. You automate it.
how does it happen?
Well, we can go into it in a bit more detail. I just want to go through everything, okay? So, sorry. Okay. So phone handling and tracking per source. This really killed me. It's painful to think how many thousands of pounds I've spent on direct mail and just lost. And I thought, okay, maybe I didn't design the message properly. I didn't test the headlines correctly. And now there's ways you can actually test before you actually go. So test before you test. If you, for example, test a headline on a Facebook advert, you see how many people click on this call to action. Think, okay, now I can spend 3,000 on direct mail flyers because it's showing traction. There's opportunities you've got now which I didn't have then or didn't even know about then. And that's why I think don't make expensive mistakes. You don't have to make expensive mistakes these days.
Can I actually interrupt there? That's a very good point. This is how I kind of do the marketing for my Samera side of the business. But I put an advert out onto Facebook. I put an advert onto LinkedIn adverts. These are all adverts, okay? I put a Google AdWords out, okay? And I test it for a week or 10 days. And I see which wording of my advert is actually going to work, which is working. This is all one big experiment, okay? Some of them get 0 clicks, but then there's usually 1 or 2. It's like, oh my goodness, everyone really wants to click on that one. So then that gives you the gist of how much, what type of wording you should have in an advert, whether it's online or offline, okay? And how much does that cost me to do? 50, 100, 150 quid to do that exercise? Because people have just clicked through, and that's been part of the whole experiment, really. And that's a very, 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 very valuable learning experience, because otherwise you've wasted, you could spend thousands and still not get any results.
Yeah, and this is about using a pull-based approach. You see what people respond to. They'll respond to what they want to respond to. They won't respond to what you tell them to respond to. And at the end of the day, you're there to provide a solution for them, not to be there and attract them to you. So it's important to be that way. There's so many ways that people have tested things. Like, for example, there's a guy who wrote the book called 4 Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss, and he, for example, tested different permutations of, I think it was like, live anywhere, work something, and escape the 9 to 5. And that permutation was the most clicked on. So he thought, okay, I'll test that on my book cover. Then when he was testing book covers, he actually went to a local bookstore and he had a book, it wasn't his book, and he had just mocked up some covers and he basically just left them in different places and just saw, well, who picks up what? What's the most interesting thing? So it's just seeing what people are interested in from there. But as I say, for phone handling, right, you've got to master your phone. You've got to know who's phoning you, where they're phoning from, and you've got to also have people in a very succinct way able to convert the phone call into an appointment. Because basically, if someone phones up, they're not phoning up for any reasons thinking that you might be able to solve my problem, so I'm just going to call you now, basically. So that's what's happening, and people are really time poor. If we miss a phone call and we try and phone them, God, it takes ages to try and reach somebody again, and you just phone tag and you end up annoying them and it won't work, basically. So when they're on the phone, you want them to be able to turn that into an appointment. There's a whole system for that. And at the same time, also what you want to do is make sure you know where the phone calls are coming from. So for example, if I'm spending this much money on YouTube or this much money on Facebook, well, how do I know how many phone calls are coming from where? And do I know how long it took? And okay, I'm spending more money on the YouTube ones, so that's bad, is it? No, it's not bad, because they might spend more money. The person who comes from direct mail actually spends way more money than the person who comes from cheaper media. So the goal is, how can I pay as much for my customer as possible? Because true sustainable advantage is that I can outbid other people in my area because I've got the internal systems to be able to kind of manage that, if you understand. So you've got to look at the whole thing. It's not just the short-term thing, it's about what's the sale that came from it, if you understand. And for example, we've made a mistake at the moment. We've got loads of flyers being delivered all over London, like Marylebone High Street, Waterloo, Green Park, all over the place. And because of the way one offer is worded, it says from 999, and it's very clear it has from, and there's 3 categories of treatment, we know, all these different stuff. I've seen that about 6 or 7 of the consults I've done recently, they've said, well, isn't it 999? And this is where we deviated from, we'd actually went to a kind of branding brochure, which I'm never going to do again, but it's versus the standard direct response one, which I showed an example of before, which works. And so we've switched that. So Tuesday, the other ones are going out, basically. So that's like that. Okay, loyal customer creation. You want to increase your average transaction value, but you also want to build trust, basically. The whole point is, you've now come to see me, I've done all the hard work, taken the time for you to come and see me. How can I have a long-term relationship with you, basically? So you want to look at your experience design. So you actually want to design and think, okay, what do I want this person to see, feel, and hear during the whole experience with me? And you can actually intentionally design that into your building or your different things, or we had a little cup which had a little blackboard on, and you could write welcome Laura or whatever it is like that on there, and you could just leave it there, and you don't make a big song and dance about it, but the right people notice the right things, basically, And all this kind of stuff is fun because you can engage your team in creating the experience that you all see, and then everybody feels valued because it's not like, oh, I just respect the dentist and I don't really care about the person on reception. No, you should be everybody, and everybody, if you're not involved in creating something, you've got no loyalty to it. So if you help them put their little stamp on it, then they're going to be, much more loyal about it. My practice manager went to some BNI meetings recently, and one BNI meeting she
Can you
went to.
explain what BNI is actually, just in case people
Okay,
don't
it's a
know?
business networking thing, so people meet every week, one occupation per group basically, and the whole point is you sell through the group, not to the group. So you basically pass each other's cards out and say, okay, I'm a dentist, you're a plumber. Okay, if I know someone needs a plumber, I'll pass it. All this kind of stuff, basically. Anyway, she went to one group, and they basically spent the time saying, it's not your business, why are you here? Because it's at 6 a.m, and she felt really like, and I really didn't like that. And then she's gone to some other place, and she's, honestly, without her, we wouldn't have it. We wouldn't have I Love Straight Teeth and a lot of the different things that are happening. And like last month, she sold like 22 braces, and it's just amazing what the right kind of person can do. So, I want her to feel valued. I want her to feel part of it. And at the same time, she created a thing, for example, when someone's had a braces fitted, within 7 days, they get a note saying that your brace-friendly treat is arriving. They get some Angel Delight in the post, and she manages all this stuff, basically. And there's lots of little things like this we do. We send out scratch cards. Someone won 20 quid, actually. That's quite good, yeah. But like different things like this, so you can just get them involved in the whole experience. And what you want people to do is to make sure that you can surpass their expectation. What is it? Satisfaction is perceived expectations minus actual outcome. So you want to make sure you stack it in your favor, and you've got enough emotional goodwill so that if something doesn't quite work or that crown fell off, they don't get mad at you. You've got a chance to fix it, basically. This is important. This is like looking at your thorough clinical assessment, and you're looking at making sure that you've got the ability to present as much as possible or give all options to in a non-threatening, non-confrontational way. And again, from people being able to see menus, they can bring something and ask you about something. If they're looking on a screen, they can ask about something. I mean, if somebody asks you, they're interested. If they don't ask you, you don't have to say things. You can just document it in your notes and different things like this. But this makes a big difference. And this got me through before we figured out how to market. Because I was doing a comprehensive assessment, full written treatment plan, photographs, imaging, all this kind of stuff on everyone that came, we got a few kind of adhesive reconstructions through it. And that's what allowed me to survive the first few months, basically. Then you're looking at making it easy for patients to say yes to quality service and guarantees. You've got to have clear guarantees, clear terms, all this kind of stuff. And again, once you've designed it once, you don't have to do it again. And then all the objections are overcome. You look at your clinical delivery system, make sure you're efficient the way you do it. And quality control feedback. So you want to make sure that you've got a way of checking were people actually happy with what they've received automatically after each different thing, because then you know that they might come back again, basically. And then you're looking at your internal customer communication journey, increasing engagement, trying on other services, increasing recur and repeat visits. I mean, there's lots of things that you need to do once they've actually finished treatment with you to possibly want to come back and see you. And again, that has to be done. You shouldn't neglect the current people just in favor of new customers. You want to make sure you build and nurture those people, because you have really nice relationships. And I get on really, really well with a lot of my patients, and it's really quite nice. So you can see, you start from what do you want to sell, how are you going to get the message out there, to how am I going to talk to all these people that heard about me automatically, how am I going to make sure that the phone calls that come in, I know where they came from and that they're converted. Then I'm going to make sure that when they actually do engage with my business, that they get the right experience they need to. When they actually come into, they're going to get a proper assessment, which is going to give them all the options that they need to have so they can say yes to whatever they want to, as little or as much, over whatever time period they want to. Also, when someone says no, it doesn't mean no, never. It might be no, not right now. I've got many people who've come back 2 years, 3 years later, and we all got this experience and say yes to the treatment plan, because you just give them the option of being able to follow it up. And then you're looking at your assessment, making it easy for people to say yes, your delivery system. There's so many different things, but if you think about it strategically in all the different things you're trying to do, then you can kind of go from there. Okay, so the next step, you need to think, what do you really want to do? Like this, if you're going to go into a different area, what is the niche product or service, like dentures or implants or whitening or hygiene, whatever it is, how could you deliver something which is the best in class in that area for what it is? And when I say best in class, I mean most value delivered to the customer per unit money, basically. So you've got the most outcome. The patient feels, I've got the most outcome from this. So therefore, they're less likely to go somewhere else because you're not a commodity. If you're a commodity, it's difficult. And so you've got to then have all this stuff to try and engender loyalty and at the same time, but you don't need to try and make somebody feel or want to see you. You want to make somebody feel that, no, I need to go there because they do it properly and this is the way it needs to be. And so that's the way you want to kind of try and do things. So I do work outside dentistry. I don't normally actually consult or do things with dentists, but what you could look at is we're doing like a 90-day thing where we're going through all the different aspects, where we're looking at the before aspects, strategically what you want to position, how you want to do everything. Then we look at the during aspects, your whole service experience, based on your building, based on everything you're doing, how you would actually make sure that that experience is as it needs to be, and also your treatment plan presentation, all that kind of stuff. Plus your after, making sure you can reactivate if you go into an existing practice and all those sorts of things. So there's lots of different things that can be done. And as I say, we go through different stuff. And Aaron, you're going to give like the stuff, isn't it? Yeah, that's fine. So we go through more different details. There's a lot you can go into, and this is a summary sheet I use just for my own reference.
I don't think anyone can read.
You can't, but it's just saying that there's a lot you can go into in more detail, basically. And then, yeah, so there's like a free report and some free video training on more different things if you want to learn more. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. Wow, okay, so probably Aalok is Aalok. He kind of overwhelms you. There's a lot of stuff there. Any kind of, before we go for a quick tea break, any kind of questions that people have got over there?
How did you actually attract people to your business?
Okay.
What did you actually do?
So to begin with, we had, so I put an advert on Gumtree. I said, who wants free teeth whitening in exchange for doing some promo flyer work? Because I knew,
Slow down.
yeah. So get some promo girls, first of all.
Slow down.
Okay.
Slow down a bit. So you went onto Gumtree.
Yes. Okay, so we just did some flyer distribution, okay?
Right, so you sent out flyers.
No, but we're a street team. So I had like 10 girls, well actually it was boys and girls, in branded t-shirts, handing out flyers. Local stations, local different places like this. That was to begin with. Then we also did a direct mail drop, which is basically where you pick a postcode and you say, okay, I want to have this flyer delivered to these places. So we did that too. Did like an open day launch. Then I was also doing web stuff in the background, basically.
So you set up your website.
What started to, yes, all those.
And you did Facebook. You didn't do Twitter.
No, I didn't do any Facebook back then. And even the Alkali Facebook page is pretty rubbish because the problem there is there's no focus. So what do you talk about? Do you put like pictures of cat with teeth? It's just, there's no real way you can gain traction. And that's why I think in dentistry it's quite difficult because you offer so many different services. You need to pick one, I think, and then go strong on that one, and then build your general thing at the same time. Because you're about to open a practice, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so you've got to then...
But you see, but I'm not in a high-end place like London or Putney where there's a lot of people. I'm in a market town where people know me already.
Perfect.
But and I have a huge demographic from teeny weeny little children to people who are almost 100.
Sure.
So I've got a whole range of people. I don't have cosmetics, Invisalign.
But you don't need those.
In the forefront of people's minds.
No, but you're offering, your positioning is going to be like a good community, solid practice to help you keep your teeth from when you're young to all the way. Is that right? Yeah.
But that's going to be the basis of it, yes.
Well, there's plenty within there because then within the age groups, for example, 0 to 10, there'll be specific things to talk and focus on, and then you'll be able to group all the mums that are addressing those kids and talk to them about specific information. You're going to have people who may be heading off to university and maybe they might be considering a little bit of teeth straightening which they missed out on from something like this. You may not want to offer that, okay? But then you've also got another age group, say, for example, young professionals who've now moved to that market town trying to raise their family and they're looking for a family place.
So you said in your presentation that you had some people who perhaps couldn't afford to come at your prices, but
Yes.
you wanted to accommodate them anyway. So how did you go about that?
So you have service, so you create a menu of services. You have different versions. So for each thing you offer, you should have multiple price points. Just like Tesco's have like value and finest, basically.
So I can see most of our people come for the lowest one,
But there's nothing wrong with that. But even within there, there's still some people who may want one of the other ones, okay? And we shouldn't make any judgments based on what somebody will have or won't have. It's simply as a business, it's good to have different versions of what you offer. From a pure testing perspective, like there's a book called The Lean Startup. It's quite a good book. And the guys were talking about like they've created a science to setting up a business, a startup basically. And they said a true lean restaurant, a true test restaurant, you wouldn't have a menu. You'd have different menus for each table and you'd see what gets ordered the most. And then from that, you'd then figure out what the menu should be basically. And so that's just one kind of approach. So you've got the opportunity to start. So you could start with, okay, hygiene, £30, hygiene and dental checkup at a certain amount, add fluoride for £10, and have a small sealant done for £20 or something like this. But how long does it take to do like a fissurotomy? And if there was very early caries, for example, but if it was seen on the menu that someone can think, okay, within £60, £80, £100, I can get my teeth checked and cleaned, and just have different options.
The communication of it all, isn't it? It's about having it written down, but also then verbalising it as well, having it on the website.
Design is good, I think. Like if you've got things people can just point at, then it makes it easier.
You're refining your product,
Yeah.
in other words, more and more. And does that sort of tend towards, in your complete subspecialisation, do you think that you'll be better off providing a single service of which you are,
I've thought about this. That's why, like for example,
well known and adept at, and just in price point?
and that can work. That can work. As I say,
Surely that's the end point of that model.
it depends. Like for example, if I love straight teeth, okay, we got high 30. They pay a lot in the first 30 days, or they're on a monthly payment plan. But then afterwards, they're going back. They're generally going back to their own dentist. They come to us for a retainer check or something. So there's no back end to that business. Basically, they refer people, and that's what we're building on doing more. But I'm just saying, like that fluctuates even with marketing. So this week, for example, if I didn't have like the normal general dentistry and things like this, there'd have been a few days which would have been bad. You understand? So it's.
Yeah, but that's because you're in a transitional phase in your own business.
I think things are always transitional. I don't think things ever become. I've only been doing it a few years, so So yeah, it's just. But yeah.
Unsure.
It was a very nice lecture. Thanks very much for that.
Welcome.
Did I hear you correctly that you said you quit your job before, and then you started up the practice and was marketing it? How much of a lag was there between you quitting your associate job? And
So I quit my associate job like around it was on my birthday. It was like parents had gone to India. They didn't want me to do it. But,
They didn't want you to do it.
But like so I didn't want to take an associate job at a place because I knew that I wanted my own practice. I thought it wasn't fair to somebody to then give my notice in. So I thought I'm going to either locum or set up my own place. It took for a good year and a half, basically, I would say.
And meanwhile, how was you sustaining?
So I burnt my savings in the first few months, and then because I was just looking full time for buildings, which you don't need to do. But I thought if you get on with it and do more stuff, then you can get more things happening. And then I took some locum jobs. I had some very good contacts because I used to work up in Hull, and I used to do a lot of emergency work in a few different areas, and they were very happy. They pay a very good day rate, and so I was just working there. And then if I need to take the next day off because I was just doing emergency clinics, they were very accommodating with me, and honestly, they're very nice people.
I can see how you could have the menu system for things that are perhaps considered cosmetic or something like the stain removal and things like that, and how you could have different levels and people pick if they want the gold standard or whatever. But if you've got something that's more of like a health issue, so if you've got a
Gum disease.
patient,
Okay, I've got a menu for that.
How would you put three things for that, or for a root treatment? Because surely you want to do
Root treatment. No, root treatment I agree with. Okay, yeah. But perio, that's interesting because you get people that come in, they think I just need a clean, and you look at them, I think, my God, like, do you even? You have, there's no. The gap of knowledge in their head and what's actually the clinical reality is huge. But you don't want to get pedantic on somebody and kind of say that you need this, because they may have come in with £65. And if you're saying, well, my one's called Gum Protect, the other one's called Periodontal Disinfect, and then there's Antibiotic Boost if you want to have other stuff. I don't do that because I don't really believe in it, but that's a different thing. But it's for example, with the Gum Protect, what we found is if I have to talk to someone and explain something, I find that within 2 seconds, 3 seconds, they're just thinking, are you trying to sell me something? So I don't say it, I just take the menu and I say, okay, gum disease, bleeding gums is the first sign of gum disease. Gum disease causes bone loss. Bone loss is irreversible, blah, blah, blah. So we recommend strong and progressive early treatment. There's different options. One would be Gum Protect, where we do like essentially anesthetic, antibacterial gel, Corsadil gel, and then also irrigate with some Corsadil. So that's like one treatment. Then you got Periodontal Disinfect, which is like a full mouth disinfection, which is like a better treatment. But then you're talking about the measuring beforehand and the different things there. If I've got somebody who's just coming through the area, because we get a lot of transient people, they're not going to be around long term. I'm not going to see them in 3 months, but I want to do the right treatment for them. It's controversial, but I won't go through the full 6-point pocket chart of everything because I'm not necessarily going to see them again and they maybe didn't want that. But I will do the best we can with like a Gum Protect appointment or a Periodontal Disinfect appointment. So you can do that for health. You just got to be a bit creative, but it's possible.
Have you got a treatment coordinator, or you just do it all yourself?
No, I don't do it myself. Like, I'm terrible at selling treatment. I think this in my head, and I just quarter the price or something like that within 2 seconds. But so that's why we fixed services, because it makes it easier so that people know what they're buying. Of course, with some things, treatment plans can get complicated, but I think wherever possible, if you can eliminate the subjectivity from dentistry, because it's so complicated and there's so many variables, you can just get overwhelmed. So yeah, my receptionist or practice manager, they would go through that stuff, but we don't have a full-time treatment coordinator. I don't think you need one. Like, I just think you need a role split with some responsibilities, basically. But they go through the finance aspects, and what we make sure is, my goal is to make sure that somebody leaves the room not confused. Like, they're clear on what is being recommended, what it means, so then they can deal with the financial confusion separately with a different person.
Can you talk me through, so somebody rings up and says, look, I'm looking for a dentist.
Sure.
Your receptionist gets them into your chair.
Yeah.
So you or your associate does the assessment, works out what the treatment plan is, and then what happens?
Okay, so...
When does the whole menu stuff come up, and when does your get involved?
It's sort of dynamically created. I don't sort of, so someone literally comes in, I'll sit down and say, how can I help you? And then, I say, you booked this today, so I'll confirm to them what they booked. You booked dental assessment today, or they might come for like a hygiene offer or something. Say, was there anything you want me to have a look at, or anything that you want to see? We see a lot of people for hygiene who don't want a dental checkup, but they do actually want a dental checkup, if you understand. They don't want to pay for a dental checkup. And so when I do the sort of co-discovery with them and look at the camera together, I'll ask them, saying, you see this, and I'll explain what it means, and I'll be like, does it concern you? And they might be like, how much is it going to cost? I'll say, okay, well, what I will do is I'll put a list together of things that you have mentioned, and then you can do whatever treatment over as little time as possible, like if you want to do it in a week, or as much time as possible, like over 2 years. But as long as we take step by step in the right direction, it's perfectly fine. So then I just make a note of those things, and then together I say to them, we'll have a look at the x-rays together and the things, and I'll say, okay, these are the things, what do you want to get started with? And then they'll be like, I say, well, if they're not sure, I'll say, well, why don't we just keep it simple? Why don't we just do like a hygiene to begin with, and we just like, there's 2 fillings there, should we just do those? Like, just make it easy to say yes to something, you understand, And then they go to the front, they know how much they're paying for that bit, and then they're in control, because no one's going to say, you need this or you need that. But I'll get some people.
They don't leave with the treatment plan, or they do?
They do. They do. They always leave with, I want them to leave with an option to say yes to, or to think about.
It sounds like a really good sort of selling marketing thing, but in dentistry it's all about health. And what about sort of phasing treatment to try and get that? So if someone wants to come in and they want sort of some veneers, but the perio is not.
You don't do the veneers then, do you?
Okay, well no, but surely if you're giving them an option, they're picking.
No, there isn't an option to do something without doing fundamental treatment. Okay, that isn't the option there.
You do sort of.
Yeah, of course. Okay.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's just the way it comes across.
I understand, but that's why I'm saying that dentistry is really complicated, and I didn't realise how complicated it was. I was doing medicine at university, and I switched across to being dentist because I thought I don't want to be a doctor, and I don't want to be, whatever. I want to be more in control of my time and my.
There's 2 doctors.
Yeah, which is good, which is very good. But I said I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be.
Do it offline.
I didn't want to be. So it's all about what I'm good and what I'm not good at, you understand? So if you recognise that, then it's fine. Yes?
Yeah, just wanted to know about the multi-channel marketing. I asked you before, how do you manage that aspect of your business?
So there's different things you can do. You can use email autoresponders, or you could, for example, use a filing card system, or all multi-channel means is just different channels. Magazine, YouTube, Facebook, local media, local...
Do you manage it yourself? Your manager manages it? But it still needs time, doesn't it?
Everything needs time, yeah.
But I think what he's trying to lead to is that you can set it up. Like I know in our own clinics, there are different media we have. We have people coming in through Google AdWords. We have people coming in through adverts. People send out emails to people. People click on a link. All of that then goes into a database. We use a system called Infusionsoft, okay, which is a CRM system. And I'll show you some of that tomorrow, actually. And that takes time to set up, but the idea behind it is there. It can then be used to, and as Aalok said, it's automating that process, okay? So it then reduces time. Initially there's time to set up, but eventually it's automated. Then not much has to be done unless you're developing and growing further and further.
And I might interrupt on that. I think what my understanding of your question was, should you do this yourself as a principal or a new principal, or should you sub it to somebody else? And I think my answer to that would be, look at what your skill set is. If your skill set is you are very IT based, or you You find it fun to dabble and play with Facebook and Infusionsoft type, software technology. Then do it yourself, because it will be fun for you. If you aren't that way inclined, I'm not, then don't. Focus on what you are good at and focus at what your strengths are and sub it to somebody, find that person, or find, and we can obviously guide you, find that helping hand, that team that you were talking about. This is another team member that you can have to help you and say, look, my skills in this area, in this arena of marketing, but I need some help in this because I can see that this practice is in an area and it commands, or the demographic that I'm serving needs this sort of technology in order for me to get their business. If, on the other hand, you are in a different environment where you are perhaps in a market town, Esher, for example, isn't that way inclined so much as Putney, or Wandsworth in our case. Wandsworth is very responsive to email marketing, very responsive to AdWords, etc., etc. Esher, similar-ish to a market town, isn't at all. So you have to tailor it to where you are, and most importantly, what type of person you are.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's you and the people that you're serving, because it might not be relevant.
Absolutely.
But in those areas, community leadership would be massive. And so, like, for example, you could eliminate the effort and time and money you would spend on other things and just say, okay, what can I sponsor? How can I get to know people? And that's the holy grail of anything. Like, if you can become known, it's called whoing, in your local area for whatever service or product you provide, then you do really well,
And that is really, really very evident in this area, in Esher. And I'm a very big believer in that, and face-to-face, and BNI, and other networking, and sponsoring balls, sponsoring rugby
school fairs,
and school fairs, and being present at the local fetes and the fairs during the summer, alongside Christina, and the American fairs around here. We get a lot of American clients, American patients, and they have their own sort of society that you belong to. That's, again, you might ask, well, who does that? Do you do that, or does your manager do it? It depends on what you're like as a person. That, for me, is my area. I like that. Remember, people? So I like that area. But for some principals, they don't. They don't want to do that. They would prefer to be behind a computer screen and do the other sort of marketing. It really depends on two things: you and the demographic that you're serving. Simple as that.
Totally, and I saw that problem because you'd have people that are selling you marketing, so they're trying to sell you to spend more on AdWords. Well, why do you want to improve your click-through rate? Because that means you're paying Google more money. Actually, what you want to do is increase the number of phone calls which turn into appointments. That might not be a click. So you've got to look at that whole thing. So that's what I set up Click.Convert.Sell, and I was doing it outside dentistry. I thought I don't want to do anything in dentistry, but then we started doing now. But obviously, one focus or one specialty of whatever it is per area, because otherwise I don't think it's fair, that way.
What did you mean by direct response?
Direct response, okay, so you're doing an advert with there's an outcome from it. For example, somebody opting in to get a free guide. So for example, we've got a free straight teeth guide. And so for example, it might take somebody 10 months, 11 months to go from the point of thinking, I've always wanted straight teeth, to actually calling you or emailing you. And so what's the best way? If I just sent out flyers saying half-price braces this month, well, there's loads of people that think, first of all, I don't even think I need braces, and second of all, okay, half-price, like DFS sale every month, every week, must end this weekend. It's not sustainable. Versus, if you can actually get the people who are an invisible market, so they've got a need which you can't identify. So they're basically, you want them to hold their hand up and say, I'm interested in learning about X. And then you want to take all those people and you want to talk to them in a very specific way. So for example, if it's like mums, what age do I take my child to the dentist? You can have a free report. What you need to know about making sure the first 5 years or first 6 years, whatever, mean that your kids have the best health all their way through, or what safe snacks to have and stuff like this. And you could have a free guide, and that could be, for example, at a village fair. You could have like some flyers which basically say like, learn how to look after your kids for free. And you did your world's first toothbrushing thing outside, so you could that's a brilliant thing because you gain attraction of the interest, but then you need to take that interest into a way that you can communicate with them when you want to communicate with them, and also when they want to communicate with you. So direct response would be to elicit a response. Ideally, you need to get their contact details, basically.
I'll give you an example. At the moment, we're running about an hour late, but never mind. We've got one example we've got literally live at the moment in our Wandsworth practice. We've got an orthodontic open evening on the 7th of November. 7th of November, okay. So one of the things we've done is, this is all experiment. some things will work, some things won't work. So what I've done, I've created a landing page. So a landing page is a specific web page, okay? Linked, it's called the neemtrees.co.uk/7th of November or something like that. You can't see it from the main website, okay? But what I've done then, I've created this page, and the idea, I want people to book onto this event, okay? So then what I've done in Google AdWords, okay, which is direct response marketing. Google AdWords is basically that, okay, and they're the masters of it. I've created a Google AdWords for certain keywords such as Invisalign Wandsworth, teeth straightening Wandsworth, orthodontics Wandsworth, various variations of that, okay? And then I've had to say, right, how much am I going to, what's my price per click, okay? Now, orthodontics in the London area is quite pricey, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's quite pricey. So at the moment, I think it's costing us £4 or £5 a click or something like that. Okay, so it's like, okay, quite high price. Okay, but now we're starting to get clicks through. But more importantly, we're getting people to. The page isn't great. It needs to be improved. I know that already. We're getting people to click through, but then we're also there's a form on there. Fill in their details. I want to come into this Invisalign orthodontic evening on the 7th of November. Okay, so we're capturing people, so we can see how effective, from the number of clicks to the actual number people who fill in the form, and ultimately the cost of how much it's doing. It's going to cost us to get those patients through to actually come to this evening. Launched it 1 week ago. Okay, we've had
5.
Is it 5? Is it 5? We've had five people come through. I've set a budget for the whole month of £900. Okay, for that campaign. 5 people straight away easily cover that if it's orthodontic treatment, because we're talking about how much each treatment, 3,000-4,000, maybe up to £7,000 or £8,000 per treatment. That's paid for that already. Now we've still.
It's really worth it for high-end treatment.
Absolutely,
like
absolutely.
So if you're just offering free checkups or a free checkup evening, not that you would, but you know that's a very different fee generation to orthodontics.
And that's why I put that high 30-day customer value, because ideally if you've got like a second business within your business, that can power and pay for all your marketing. So then then the time you've got to build links in different areas and stuff, then you've got that.
Yeah,
basically.
and I think it's kind of Alok's kind of done it in a very succinct amount of time, but for the dental clinics of ours, it's, yes, you've got to offer the treatments of the general services that we do provide, but if you can focus your marketing on the higher ticket value items, that's going to have a much better return for you, such as orthodontics, such as dental implants, that type of thing. That suddenly grows the business much quicker and produces the cash flow that you require as well.
And it also doesn't mean, if that's not your area, it doesn't mean you're the one who has to then go and relearn or, retrain, as it were. You can be doing what fires you up. So for Aalok, it's all bloodless work, that fires him up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fantastic. And it happens to be high-ticket items, which is a bonus. But if it were not to be that, and you were wanting to focus on general dentistry or general medicine, well then why don't you think of, down the line, taking on the services of somebody who does generate the high-ticket items, who does use the room when you're not there, or perhaps working a little as an associate, or just somebody who can come and do ortho, for example, or implants, or high-ticket cosmetic work within medicine, whilst you're there. So you're fulfilling your dream, your passion of doing whatever dentistry or medicine you're doing, but why not get them in to generate income for you? Use the chair. It's
a fixed.
It's a fixed cost, so it needs to be used.
Sweating the asset. I mean, you might as well, because it's there day and night.
So I'm guessing that both of you guys have done flyers.
Yes.
For your promoting. And how frequently do you do the flyer drops?
It depends on what your objective is. So if you've got a specific offer or something, then you wouldn't want to do the area too frequently, but then it depends on how big the drop is. If you're trying to build awareness, let's say it's like a local campaign. So for example, for Alkali Dental Studios, we act as like a nice local dentist, basically. So, there's lots of people there. They don't know we do I Love Straight Teeth and other stuff like this. They just come to us for the normal stuff. So we have like a simple dental flyer, maybe every 2 months, something like this. We'll just go over the area and just...
And that's just to keep the brand awareness going?
To give a reason for them to call. There is always an offer on it, like in terms of this much off your hygiene or something, some simple thing basically. But I'd go with that. Never say flyers don't work. Never say media doesn't work. The problem is your message and your conversion, and that's
Yeah, I think he's right. We've done flyering, and I'm the first person to say, it didn't work so well. But it is that.
For nothing else,
it's the consistency.
It increases the awareness. So it's a really good means and method to generate.
Should it be the same? Like, at what point does it become desperate?
Well, I
As a
mean,
flyering too
we're
frequent,
not
you know
huge
what I mean?
flyer droppers.
We do it to launch
so-
it, but when we launch a practice, we always flyer drop the area about the same residential areas 6 to 7 times, okay? So people get to know us in the area, and we always have some incentive for people to come into the clinic. That's kind of...
Sometimes in the year.
No,
No, 6 to 7 times within
a space of a couple of months.
That particular.
So we kind of immerse the area, so they can't miss us. Okay,
Right.
so we want to dominate that local area. We want people to see us, and they might get peeved off. They might get 10 flyers through the letterbox. We get the odd call from patients or prospective patients. Oh, your person's dropped through 10 leaflets through the door. Oh, we don't want to come to your clinic. Well, sorry about that. That wasn't our fault. But that's how it works, okay? And there's a call to action on that leaflet, so they're going to do something physically. Either there's an offer to come in to see us as a new clinic, or some incentive to get them through the door, okay?
And there's usually a date limit as well, because we want to measure what it is that we've thrown.
But then after that event, subsequently, we typically haven't done much flyer dropping, really. We've just focused on other ways of doing marketing.
We'll do annual or maybe once every 6 months, but that's just the way we look at it. Your technique's slightly different, and you're in a different demographic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it all boils down to where you are.
And how do you feel about advertising in a local paper? That cheapens the ads.
No, I don't think it cheapens. I think there's also a game of the trouble I see is so often I see people advertise in newspapers, but there's no real clear message in it. Okay.
Yeah. For example, right? People say you shouldn't advertise in newspapers. Well, why? The people that read it are generally over 50 and they've got money. You know, the people, so they're the ones you want to talk to. So, for example, if you got like, are your dentures loose and uncomfortable? Get your free guide on how to check if your dentures are right. That's a fantastic advert to put in a local paper.
Exactly, as a response to that. And you'll know how many people came from that advert, because they're going to a certain landing page, or they'll download that, and you'll see, okay, and you've captured their email address, and you can email them in 3 months' time, right, we've got a dentures evening or implants evening.
Free oral cancer check. You know, if you said free oral cancer check and you're talking to 20-year-olds, it's not relevant. But if you talk to somebody else, it is relevant, you know. It's
so often when
message market media.
the copy, or the people who use the word copy, or basically the words you put on the advert is usually wrong. They put a nice clinic, we are
picture of a tooth,
Isha Dental Clinic, picture of a tooth, call us now. It's like, well, no one's going to call you really. No one's really that interested, okay? What's in it for me? Those are the words.
Yeah.
From the customer's perspective.
About them.
Them.
It should be about what's in it for the client.
Yeah. Why should I read that, and why should I come to you? Oh, there's a free report, or they've got some incentive on there, or something. And so it's really important words of what's in it for me.
And should you get a paid paper or a free paper?
Sorry?
A paid paper or a free paper?
Test it.
I don't know. Is a testing.
Who's reading what? Who are you trying to reach?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, because clearly the person who's paying for a paper is going to be slightly different social, economic group.
You can't.
I'll give you an example. Metro.
Yeah, Metro.
I'll give you an example. Those the Hungarian guys. I know they're happy for me to mention this. The ones who built up this dental tourism business. I can't say who it is, but they've built their whole business through Metro. Okay. Through Metro. Okay. They've built their whole business through Metro. That's a free paper. And they've probably taken a large portion of those 70,000 patients a year.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you see as a successful campaign? For example, you mentioned something earlier that you got 2 to 10 responses to 1,000 flyers. That doesn't sound particularly high, but is that the realistic figures you would expect?
Yeah, but that's why it's important to think, okay, you might put 1,000 flyers out, okay? Yeah. The actual response rate, realistically, is going to be a 1 to 2%, very low, maybe even low, very low, okay, from a flyer point of view. But and now, if that cost of transaction, and if they're going to just come in and spend £50 with you, and that's it forever, it's been a pretty pointless exercise in marketing. The whole point is that they're going to come in, they might only spend £50 with you, but then you can build the value, and they become a lifetime customer of yours. That's the idea. That's kind of where you need to come from.
But that can cause like a cash flow issue. Like, for example, it's right in the long term. Big companies, they can take a hit on a customer because they know I can, like Grays, have you hit in those boxes for the advertised on TV? Yeah, so for example, there's a certain amount it costs to actually get that box. And the whole thing is they know that, okay, for within 6 months or something like this, they'll make their money back or whatever. So the same thing you could do, like, well, if I do a flyer, you come for hygiene, spend £50, I'll be really good, you'll like me. After 2 years, you might do something else. But for 2 years, what's happened to your cash flow in the bank bills and everything like this? That's why I've focused for flyers, because they are expensive to do, on things that can pay, but then you don't necessarily have to kind of go with that. And also, with the question you asked about what's successful, it should pay for itself and make it worthwhile to do again, basically. So
you mentioned transient patients.
Yes.
How do you factor that into a long-term business model?
That's why I don't. That's why I look at that as a bonus.
That's a bonus.
That's a bonus.
Last question before tea time, so go on, Claire.
With the flyers, I've done a little bit of investigation, and it was something I knew nothing about, but I know that you can put them with free papers, you can get them sent on their own, you can get them sent as part of a bulk, a lot of flyers, and there's different costs for all of them. And what would you recommend, and have you got any companies that you think are good? Or
Well, from our experience, I looked at all the options, just like yourself, okay? And what we did in the end, we hired a few local guys who we knew who lived in the area who weren't part of any company, and they were people delivering local estate agent flyers. And I said, well, do you want a job? You can, when you're handing out the local estate agent flyers, can you hand out these our dental practice flyers? And they said, all right then, and they did. And so we just gave them some more money.
Right.
And it worked out a lot more cost effectively for us. Okay, yeah, I think some of them might have been chucked in the bin, but it's that proportion. But
it's just a numbers game.
It is a numbers game, and we got a decent enough response from the return that we put in paying for them and the cost of printing and etc.
2 things on that. We also tried using a local paper company, Royal Mail, who for a certain charge per paper will put your flyer inside the paper and deliver. That gives you the guarantee that it'll be delivered rather than thrown in the bins, which is one guarantee. The problem with that is if you, as you know, in your houses when you get all these papers delivered, all these leaflets which might as well all just all be Domino's pizzas, you know, I don't even look at any of it, it just gets chucked. So that was my issue with that approach. However, there was at least some certainty in the fact that they would all be delivered. The other halfway house we found is we had a cleaner who was starting up her own cleaning business, and she was very entrepreneurial for a cleaner who wanted to sort of sub out cleaning and own the sort of, I suppose, a franchise sort of arrangement and get all these cleaners from. She's Bulgarian.
Yeah, it's Bulgarian.
Yeah, so she has all these contacts in Bulgaria, gets all these women over and basically subs them out to clean and takes a cut and blah. Anyway, she's very entrepreneurial, so what we said, she said, well, I come to your clinic, I want to tap into this area, so how about I take on your leaflets and I will give them out and I will make some on my own and I'll give them out as well. So, and I will deliver them because it's in my interest to deliver them to each of the houses because I want the business from the houses, and I'll make sure my girls do it because if they don't do it, they don't get more work. So I thought, clever. So I said to her, okay, that's fantastic. What we will do is we will print and design your leaflets because yours are a bit naff, with all due respect. So we will make them really amazing and print them and cover all those sorts of costs, and you deliver. It's a fair exchange.
Fair trade.
You know, and a fair trade, yeah. So she did that, and that worked quite well. I mean, again, it wasn't an amazing hit rate, but at least there was guarantee of delivery.
But the key thing here was that our
the tea and the coffee are turning cold.
Oh, we better go.
They're not even warm.
but the key point there, it was it didn't cost us much to do it, okay? Because the delivery cost was, we thought of an alternative way to do it, okay?
Yeah, so we're looking at cost. Trade, trade your trades. If you can.
On that note, we will go and get a tea and coffee. We can talk during the break. Just give Aalok a round of applause. So.
Thank you, Aalok.
Thank you.